anxious about speaking Spanish for the first time? What if I told you that by the end of this video, you'll be greeting, introducing yourself and others, and saying goodbye in Spanish with confidence? I'm here to walk you through all of it, using the vocabulary and structures native speakers use, ensuring your hola and adios are as natural as they come. So the first thing we need to cover in our first interactions are greetings. In Spanish, we have informal and formal greetings. We are going to start with informal ones. You are going to use informal greetings when you're addressing a person that seems to be your same age. Classmates, co-workers, etc. And over here, you have two key greetings, hola o qué tal. But it will be a little bit weird just to say hola. We need to complete this by saying ¿Cómo estás? O ¿Cómo te va? Hola, ¿cómo estás? These informal greetings can also be used if there is a connection of some degree of familiarity between you and the other person. Remember this because I'm going to show you what this means in a second. And then we have the formal greetings. We are going to keep these ones for elders, people that seem to be slightly older or have a higher authority than us. And depending on the part of the day, you are going to say Buenos días, good morning, Buenas tardes, good afternoon, Buenas noches, good night or good evening. And over here, you are going to complete these greetings by saying ¿Cómo está? How are you? Notice that in Spanish, when addressing people formally or informally, we need to be careful with the vocabulary we use, but we also need to make sure that our conjugation matches. We're going to say ¿Cómo estás? With an S at the end when we're addressing people informally. But if I'm addressing that person formally, I'm going to delete the S. ¿Cómo está? And with greetings, you can do certain combinations. I told you that you can use informal greetings if there is a connection between you and the other person. So for example, my brother-in-law could greet my mom by saying, Hola, ¿cómo está? He's using an informal greeting because these two have something in common. They know the most adorable girl in the world, me. But he's also using ¿Cómo está? To address my mom formally and show some respect. And when it comes to Spanish, you really want to be careful with vowels. Spanish vowels a, e, I, o, y, u have a short sound, and this sound is not going to change. Check the difference. In English, you guys will say no, that's a long O. In Spanish, we say no. We cut the sound before we can make it longer. So we don't say ¿Cómo estás? We say ¿Cómo estás? So the next step is to introduce yourself. And over here you have two options. You could say Yo soy Daniela o Yo me llamo Daniela. Imagine that you and this person have a friend or an acquaintance in common. If that's the case, you can use this information as part of your introduction. And to do that, you can use this structure. You're going to use él if you're a man, and you're going to use la if you're a woman. And some of the words that you can use to complete this structure are amigo o amiga, novio o novia, papá, hermano o hermana, vecino o vecina, y mamá. Let me put these elements together so you can see how they work. Yo soy Daniela, la amiga de Elena. I'm Daniela, Elena's friend. Now, my next step will be asking your name. And over here, you're going to have two options. Informally, tú, ¿cómo te llamas? What's your name? Or formally, usted, ¿cómo se llama? ¿Tú cómo te llamas? Usted, ¿cómo se llama? So imagine that I know that there is a connection between you and one of my friends. I can mention that by using the informal or formal structure. For example, ¿tú cómo te llamas? Gabriela? Ah, eres la hermana de Luis, ¿verdad? What's your name? Gabriela? Oh, you're Luis's sister, right? And check that we're using the same structure that we learned before, we're just customizing it to address that person. Formally, this example will look like, ¿Usted cómo se llama? Gabriela. Ah, es la hermana de Luis, ¿verdad? So now that you introduce yourself, we can worry about others. So to introduce others, you can say, Esta es Elena o Este es Carlos. Check that I'm using esta es to refer to a woman, Elena. you are going to use este es if you're referring to a man, Carlos. But you could also say este es mi o esta es mi to express your relation with another person. And you are going to use the words we learned before to complete this structure. For instance, esta es mi hermana, Elena, o este es mi vecino, Carlos. So now it's time to exchange pleasantries. You can simply say mucho gusto, nice to meet you. But we also have other options. An informal option will be gusto en conocerte, nice to meet you. The formal version will be gusto en conocerlo o conocerla. Here, we're marking the gender of the person we're talking to. So for example, if my brother-in-law was talking to my dad, he will say gusto en conocerlo. But if he was talking to my mom, he will say gusto en conocerla. Another informal option you have is encantado o encantada de conocerte. Pleased to meet you. And with this one, you are going to mark the gender of the speaker. In my case, I will say encantada de conocerte. The formal version is encantado o encantada de conocerlo o conocerla. Yes, we're marking the gender of the two people involved in the conversation. So imagine we have a meeting at the office and I'm meeting this woman. I will say encantada de conocerla. If I was meeting a man, I will say encantada de conocerlo. This expression is very natural, but if you decide to use it, make sure that you mark the gender correctly. And to answer to any of these pleasantries, you can simply say el gusto es mío. The pleasure is mine. In these first interactions, it's very common to make small talk. And one common question that you can use in this situation is ¿qué te gusta hacer? O, the formal version, ¿qué le gusta hacer? And to respond to this, you are going to use the structure me gusta plus an infinitive, a non-conjugated verb. Me gusta leer, I like reading. O, me gusta ver tele, ¿a ti qué te gusta hacer? I like watching TV. What do you like to do? Check this example again and pay attention to the question at the end. ¿A ti qué te gusta hacer? This is how we can redirect the question and the conversation to the other person. In this example, the question was asked informally. If you want to ask this formally, you will say ¿a usted qué le gusta hacer? And in this context of liking, it's also very common to ask ¿te está gustando o le está gustando? Plus a noun. It can be an activity. In this case, I'm going to use this example. ¿Te está gustando la ciudad? Are you liking the city? Ay, sí, mucho. Another common questions we ask when making a small talk are ¿de dónde eres? Where are you from? ¿A qué te dedicas? What do you do for a living? These are the questions that you are going to use if you're addressing that person informally. Their formal versions are ¿de dónde es? ¿A qué se dedica? To respond to these questions, you can use soy de plus your country and soy plus a word that describes your profession. Soy de México y soy maestra. If this is your first interaction in Spanish, you probably don't want to feel overwhelmed, so it's time to say goodbye. And to do this, we have a couple of different expressions. The first one is me dio gusto conocerte. It was nice to meet you. And remember that this is the informal version. A variation will be fue un gusto conocerte. Fue un gusto conocerlo. Fue un gusto conocerla if we are addressing people formally and we need to mark gender. So next, we can say nos vemos luego, tengo que irme, nos vemos después, adiós, or my favorite for a first interaction, hasta luego, see you later. So now that you know these vocabulary and structures, let me show you how they look in a real-life conversation. Hola, ¿cómo estás? Soy Daniela, la amiga de Carlos. Ay, hola, mucho gusto. Yo también soy amiga de Carlos. Me llamo Claudia. Encantada de conocerte. ¿A qué te dedicas, Claudia? Soy doctora. ¿Y tú? Soy maestra de español. ¿Te está gustando la ciudad? Sí, mucho. Me gusta conocer lugares nuevos. Ah, bueno, tengo que irme. Fue un gusto conocerte. Gracias, igualmente. Last step, igualmente, means likewise, and we're going to use it to express that we're also pleased to meet that person. So now you know the phrases, vocabulary, and structures we native speakers use in a first conversation. In the description, you'll also find a guide to greetings in case you want to increase your vocabulary for this specific part of the conversation. So that's it for today, guys. I hope you found this video helpful, and if you did, please let me know by hitting the like button. I hope to see you soon. Hasta luego!